This is Justin.
And this is Haley, and you're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize conversations about money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Hi Toasties, welcome to The Price of Avocado Toast.
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been following us from the start of this thing, we're so glad to have this conversation with you today.
Today we are recapping our story. We have quite the freaking story, and it has been 53 episodes and over a year since we've done this. And I think it's really important that people have a go-to episode to listen to that's not our first episode.
Yeah, not when we were bad podcasters. It's been a while, and it's important that people kind of know where we've been and where we've come from and where we're at now so that hopefully they can relate and maybe feel a little bit more connected to our story.
Yeah, you and I always talk about this and how far we've come. And I think it's important that we share this with people because if you're just joining the podcast, if you're just listening for the first time or relatively new and you haven't gone all the way back and you've heard us reference certain things here and there, it's going to be confusing to kind of piece it all together. You just see what we're doing right now in the present, which looks so much different than where we came from.
It's really nice, too, to kind of look back on everything because I was mentioning last night when we were out, you know, like David, our financial advisor, will say like, wow, like you guys have made some really big decisions and done some really big things. You should really celebrate that, you know, and feel proud of yourself. But for us, like we're in it and it's just kind of like, yeah, like this is what we're doing to try and change things around for us. But it's kind of nice to step back and like actually look at it and be like, wait a minute, we have made some big changes and we really have worked hard for this.
Really hard.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of sacrifices that we've made that I think I used to look at as cheating. That we took a shortcut and did certain things, but in the end it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how we did it. We're here and we've done certain things that we might not recommend for other people, but this is our journey, and I think it's really important because we've literally come so far, like you just said.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to share it again with our listeners, you know, both that have been around since the beginning and maybe the new ones who haven't heard it yet.
Alrighty, are you ready for this?
I am. I guess we should probably start and just touch in on how we came up on so much money.
Well, before that, I want to add in that when you and I met, I had personally $10,000 of credit card debt. And I didn't even mention this before because I kind of forgot about it. Certain things have happened that I forgot about. So when you and I were dating, right in the beginning, I started a credit card loan consolidation program with Clear One Advantage. And $10,000 was the bare minimum. Like, I really shouldn't have done debt consolidation, but they approved me and I went through a program for that. And I completely forgot about that. So I have not mentioned that like at all on our podcast.
Okay, so let's kind of talk then about what we were walking into our relationship with debt-wise. I personally just had $10,000 of student loans, and you were coming in with what?
I had $32,000 of undergrad student loans, and then I had my $10,000 of credit card debt.
Okay.
And that's it.
And that's what we came into our relationship with. Perfect.
Yep. Young, wild, and free.
Yeah. So we meet in late 2015, and we're officially a couple in early 2016. And in January of 2016, I received a settlement payout from a lawsuit on behalf of my grandmother who passed away from mesothelioma, which is asbestos-caused lung cancer. And the awarded settlement, you know, not even looking into all of the other things as to why it came to me and my siblings, but nonetheless, me and my two siblings each were awarded $1 million for my grandmother's passing. After lawyers' fees of 40%, we were each going to be inheriting from this, you know, suit $600,000. So in January of 2016 was the first check, and that was worth $60,000.
And you're 24 years old.
24 years old.
I'm 23. We have absolutely no idea how to manage our finances, let alone a lump sum of $60,000.
Yeah.
So that was pretty wild. The first thing you did was go buy a car, because what else do you do when you're 24 and you get $60,000?
Yeah.
You go buy a car.
Yeah, and I luckily it was a Toyota RAV4, which held great resale value, so I am happy about that. But that was the first choice. It was the first thing, and I think out the door, after all of the bells and whistles and everything, it was like $32,000 for a brand new car.
That was, of all of the things that we did that were bad, that was one of the better things.
Yeah, that was probably a smarter move.
That was a pretty smart choice. You paid cash. It wasn't a Tesla. It was a really reliable car, and it wasn't too expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I still wouldn't agree with going to buy a brand new vehicle.
Right.
But at least I didn't buy like a Mustang.
Yeah.
Which would have been wild. Yeah.
So we went really fast from the moment we met till like everything else in our relationship. I mean, it's gone really fast. So we started officially dating in January, and we moved in together in March.
Yeah.
Immediately. And so we move in together. We rent this apartment that we couldn't afford. We were both servers at the time. Not like there's anything wrong with being a server, but we weren't making very great money.
No.
And we were both working like part-time here and there. It was very unreliable income. And we go and rent a $2,400 townhome that's like 2 bedrooms. It's really nice. They let us have our dogs. And that was the start of it, because we could not afford that. And
No.
they should not have rented that to us, but they let you rent it because you were like, hey, look at my money. I have all this money in my bank account.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay.
Not smart. Not smart. So it's March. We moved into it together, and I have the vehicle and some extra cash in my bank account. And a little bit later, I think it was either late March or early April, the second half of the lawsuit comes in, and that's a check for $540,000.
You say half like it's another 60.
I mean, yeah. The large portion of the lawsuit came in. $540,000. So now that's into my bank account, and again, 24-year-old with no clue how to save or budget or do anything right with money.
Yeah, we moved in. You had just come from living with your mom, so you didn't have any like household stuff of your own. I came from years and years of roommates with like 19 different people, so all of my stuff was mismatched and broken. And so we decided to just like furnish our whole entire place and get brand new kitchenware. I mean, every little thing in there was brand new.
Yeah.
I don't know anything that was used.
Mm-mm.
Top to bottom, that whole entire place, besides the mattresses, were brand
Well,
spanking
and the
new.
couches. We got those like used couches.
Okay, yes, that's right. We didn't get something too fancy for the couches, but everything else was really not cheap. And
No.
we didn't even care because we had so much money.
Mm-hmm.
And I say we because you and I went into our relationship full force, like I said, and combined our finances from like day one.
Yeah.
We got a joint bank account, and everything was what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours. And so this money, the whole entire time when I talk about it, I do say it like it was mine because it literally was in my bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also spending it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was awarded to you and we were not married at the time, technically it was your money, but we spent it together like we were married.
Yeah.
Which was a little weird, but it is what it is. Thankfully, we're still married.
Yeah. So an important thing to note is that at this time we did pay off my student loans, and we did use that money to pay off your credit card consolidation. So at this time we were debt free. I think I had like a couple grand on my college credit card that I paid off as well. So we were debt free, living with one another in this townhome in May of 2016.
And then, like I said, we got the apartment that we couldn't really afford, and that's when the lifestyle inflation really started to go crazy. And for my 24th birthday, you bought me like a $3,700 camera.
Yeah.
And that hurts me to even look at the number now, because we would never, ever spend that much money for like a gift.
No.
Now, like never.
No.
And that's just crazy. But at the time, we were spending money at a level where it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
There were hundreds of thousands of dollars in our bank account. And when it would go, we would just transfer another 20 G's over. Like, just some casual thing that we did, and we didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts when you were doing that? Like,
No,
oh, this is dwindling, or
no, not at all. It was just like it's in my bank account, and I had grown up essentially believing that if it's in my bank account, it's there to be spent, and that's kind of the way I looked at it.
and it was in the bank account and it was spent.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, yeah, the lifestyle inflation really just created this thing for us where we were living off of the money.
Hmm.
It wasn't even supplementing our income. It was whatever we wanted, we got because we had money and we justified it because there was money in the bank account.
Yeah,
Which sounds very snobby now that I say it like that, but it's the truth.
it is. Absolutely. Now, the nice thing is 2017 rolls around and we finally make the first wise choice with this money, and that is purchasing a home. That was like what I truly believe, like at least one smart decision with this money. We put a large portion down. I think we put about 260,000 down and financed a $270,000 loan. Purchase price was 530 on the home. So 260,000 gone like that, but at least it's going into a home.
And at the time, we still had about $400,000 or $500,000 of the 600, and we made a conscious decision not to put it all into the house because we wanted to have a cushion. And we went back and forth, like, should we put more, less? What's the best? And we justified there's nothing wrong with having a little mortgage. The mortgage was going to be less than our rent that was $2,400. And so we just left half of it in our bank account, put the other half into the house, and then spent the half that was on our bank account. But yeah, I agree. That was like the saving grace. At least that went into something that was valuable.
Yeah.
And you did forget to mention way earlier on, like right in the beginning, you did open up a Roth IRA, and
True.
it was before the deadline for 2015. So you were able to max out your Roth IRA for 2015 and 2016 immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another thing that was a very, very smart decision. But there weren't very many smart decisions being made.
Not many.
All right, what happened next? I mean, we just lived off of it.
Yeah, again, like this whole time we're working and you're going to grad school to get your master's degree.
Which we financed the whole thing.
Yeah, that was $50,000 of student loans that instead of using the money that we had, we believed, let's just take out the loans and live off of that too, because we have no control over our money, whether it's ours literally or ours, figuratively from student loans. Again, kind of working at this time.
I do want to mention we were working really hard. We had several jobs, so we were making money. It's not like we were just living off of this, but we both had multiple jobs making income plus spending all of this other money. So it's just an interesting thing because we didn't need this. We were making enough money to pay our bills.
Yeah.
But we were spending significantly more than our bills were.
And I mean, we truly had no clue what we were doing with money.
Mm-hmm.
We had no clue what we were spending. We weren't even coming close to a budget or tracking or anything like that. Like it truly was, I check my bank account. If I see there's money in there, it can be spent.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying to think about now.
But that's how it was our whole lives.
Yeah.
Like the way that we grew up, both of us, it was when you get money, you spend it.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't taught to save money. And that's not, I don't say that to shit on our parents, but it is what it is. And I don't know that our grandparents taught our parents how to save money.
Mm-hmm.
It's a generational thing.
Yeah.
And because we were not taught how to do anything other than spend money or worry about money, which caused us to just spend every little penny that we had, it is what it is. You look back and it makes sense because of the way that we were raised and everything, but it's terrifying. I mean, you look at all of the people that win the lottery who end up bankrupt.
Yeah, it's not surprising, at least to me, because I essentially hit the lottery and didn't know what I was doing and, spent a lot of money over a few years. It was not wise at all. Okay, so early 2017 or May of 2017, we buy the house. Was our next move the Forerunner? Or was 4Runner in 2018?
The 4Runner was in 2018, right before our wedding.
Okay.
So yeah, we go to buy a 4Runner on 4th of July in 2018, and I don't even have a job. Like, I don't even have a job offer, and they let me finance a $50,000 car. You were not even on the loan. It was me by myself. $50,000. They were like, here you go. You can put down $3,000 and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And so that was another thing. We had $50,000 in the bank to pay for my grad school. We had $50,000 in the bank to pay for the 4Runner outright. But we chose not to.
Yeah. And at this point, I was now also in grad school to get my master's in teaching along with you. So if you're tracking what kind of debt we've racked up to this point, we've got a $270,000 mortgage. We've got 2 master's degrees at $50,000. We never paid off your undergrad loans at $32,000, so we still have those over our heads, and we now have a $50,000 vehicle. So at this point, we're up to $182,000 in what I would consider like bad debt, and then $270,000 of mortgage debt.
And then we get married, and then what's yours is mine, really, and then what's mine is yours, really. So the 4Runner became yours. The mortgage was all you, even though I chose the house, but the mortgage was actually in your name. So then all of a sudden, everything really legally got combined at that point. And when we got married, we've talked about this many times before, but we cash flowed our wedding. That was one thing we did not go into debt for.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent what I thought was like, oh, this is so elaborate. But actually, after doing some research, it's a pretty average number for a wedding in California, the size of what we had. But we spent $30,000 for our wedding. We paid for it, and that was it. After that, we had no more money of the $600,000.
Yeah.
That was the last penny.
So from January 2016 to September 2018, we had managed to go through $600,000, and we had absolutely no clue where it all went beyond some of the big ticket items.
Yeah, we went through $600,000 and racked up debt at the same time.
Yeah.
So clearly we had no idea what the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
So after we get married, obviously the next thing is we go on a honeymoon.
Whoop, whoop.
And my dad, his wedding gift to us was paying for our honeymoon. So that was a beautiful trip to Mexico. And I don't even know how it happened. We ended up buying a timeshare that's not really a timeshare. It's more like a members-based. How would you describe it?
Yeah, they call it a vacation club because they want to doctor it up different than a timeshare. A timeshare is you only get a certain week in the year to use that spot. We have points that we can spend at the hotel at any point throughout the year. Just different weeks cost more or less points.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a timeshare.
It's a timeshare.
We had no intentions. Of course, no one ever had any intentions of getting a timeshare. We went to the meeting. It worked. They got us kind of drunk, and we signed the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And the timeshare itself was like $16,000 or $17,000, and they were like, "Hey, you can open up a credit card to put $5,000 of it on a credit card." So of course, we opened up a credit card. We put $5,000 on a credit card for like the down payment, technically, which turns into credit card debt at a really high interest rate. And then we financed the rest of it. And I think we financed like $12,500 or something.
You're absolutely right.
And yeah, so then all of a sudden we have a lot of debt. And come the new year, 2019, I'm like, okay, this is getting a bit excessive. Let's try to budget. And I was in charge of all of the finances at this point. Justin didn't even check the mail. And I'm not faulting you for that. That's just the way that we did it.
Yeah, that's how our system worked.
And it didn't really work.
Well, yeah, that's at the time. That's what we were doing.
Yeah, I was trying to pay off debt. And trying is really weak. I was trying not very well. But I would take extra money and shift it around. You know, if we had $500 extra, I'd put it across all of our debts instead of focusing on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So some things would go down, but not like very much.
Yeah.
So what was the turning point for us to kind of open our eyes, would you say?
I would say that it was probably, we took a road trip down to visit your dad, I think, in Paso Robles, and we listened to The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And this was a book that your brother had told you that you should read for a couple years, and you were like, hey, like, we can get this audiobook. Let's just listen to it. And so we did. And it really, sparked like, oh, wow, this is interesting. We could do some of these budget things. And so we started to kind of lean into budgeting, but not really. It was just kind of like, oh, maybe there are some things we can do better, but we're not going to actively do them.
Yeah, we listened to the book and we heard what he was saying and we felt the shame and we were like, oof, this is bad. We should probably fix this. But then we didn't really know what to do to fix it.
Yeah.
And we didn't really make an effort to figure out what that was to fix it. And so we just kind of sat on it for a few months, feeling like, okay, we know we have debt. And at this point, we'd racked up $27,000 of credit card debt in 13 months. So we knew we had debt, a lot of it, and we knew we didn't want to have debt, but we didn't really know where to go. And then something really weird happened.
And now let's take a brief pause for a word from our sponsor. Psych! We don't have any sponsors. We don't get paid to do this. We do it because it's fun.
It is so much fun, and we want to thank you guys for listening and for being loyal toasties. We're about to hit 25,000 downloads of this podcast. That's 25,000 ear holes that we've been in, and we want to thank you. So we're doing a little giveaway.
Woo woo.
It's not really little. It's $100. It's a big giveaway. Let's go. All right. In order to win or even be entered, we want you to share this episode or the post on Instagram in your stories on Instagram. So I make a post every time there's a new episode. You can share that one, or you can share a screenshot of you listening to this episode. But the key is you have to tag us. It's very, very important that you tag The Price of Avocado Toast, or we won't even see it.
Yeah.
So make sure that you share it in your stories and tag us, and you will be entered to win.
I love it. We're going to be closing this episode giveaway contest Friday on, October 8th at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So when it hits midnight for us on Friday night, we are shutting it down. We're going to randomize the giveaway over the weekend and Venmo somebody $100.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Isn't it exciting being able to do stuff like this?
It's so fun.
So much fun. Outrageous giving rocks. Okay, let's get back into the episode.
We went to a wedding in September of that year, and we met some very odd people. And if you want the full lowdown on this whole entire story, please go listen to episode 10. It's our Amway story. We met some very interesting people that we were super attracted to their personalities and what they were doing, and we started talking about Dave Ramsey, and that was like a real quick spiral to like, oh my gosh, these people are gonna like save our lives and make us rich. I don't even know how that'll happen, but you should listen to episode 10 to hear the whole Amway story. But we met these people and we started hanging out with them basically weekly, and we thought we were going to be rich. I don't even know like how we went from this poor mentality to like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we're going to get our shit together and make all this money and everything's going to be great. And then that didn't happen.
No, and we weren't really even hanging out with them. We were like meeting them at Starbucks for coffee.
That's still our time that was being spent with them.
Yeah, but hangout makes it sound like we were actually even, friends with them. Like it was very strange how all of it went down.
Yeah, it was a very businessy, weird.
It was very weird.
Very scammy.
So that is through the month of October. We're meeting them once weekly. We're still not budgeting. We're still not tracking our expenses, but we think we're doing things semi-right. And I guess it was October, the famous pumpkin muffins. So I came home from work one day. You had gone to Costco. You're 8 months pregnant then? A little like almost
like
8 months pregnant. You had bought pumpkin muffins, and I got pissed because we didn't have an extra $7 in our bank account. We did, but I was like, we don't have the budget for this. And I yelled at you for buying pumpkin muffins at Costco, my pregnant wife. And we look back, we've mentioned it so many times in the podcast that we look back at it now and kind of laugh about it. But back then it was very real and it was very scary. And there was a lot of fear behind all that. And so that's in October. November, we finally get to the point where we had enough. We'd had enough of being part-time budgeters, part-time expense trackers, and living in tons of debt.
And that was a powerful turning point. And we haven't looked back since.
I think a really important thing to mention too is nobody knew about it. Nobody knew the amount of debt we were in. Nobody knew the financial struggle we were in.
No, because it happened so fast. We blew through the money so fast, and then we accumulated so much debt so fast. We didn't have time to be like, ooh, maybe we should calm down a little bit. We kept going at rapid speed, so people just knew us as the people who were generous and liked to buy things and look like everything was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But no one talked about it.
Mm-mm.
I mean, your mom and my mom and your grandma, I remember when our podcast first came out, they were like, oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much shame.
For sure.
Because how the hell did we go from having so much money to so much debt? Now I'll tell you exactly how much debt we ended up having at this time. So we blew through the 600. We ended up at this point in time with $135,000 of student loans, $27,000 of credit card debt in 13 months,
Mm-hmm.
a $12,000 timeshare, a $50,000 car loan, and then we had our mortgage on top of that.
Yeah. And so this is November, and we've decided we've had enough. Now, I should say, at this point, we had actually even taken out a cash out refi on our home to take care of a bathroom remodel because we needed a tub for the incoming baby. And we paid off the 4Runner and had some extra cash. I think it was like $10,000 of just like extra cash. But at this point, at least the 4Runner's taken care of at the expense of adding it onto our home mortgage.
$80,000.
Yeah.
So anyone who's been listening for a hot minute knows we just sold our house.
Mm-hmm.
$80,000 of
Equity.
that could have been in our pockets today.
Yeah.
That makes me so mad.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
And we questioned the cash out refi, and we thought, this is a slippery slope. It's a really
Yeah.
slippery slope. We should not do this. And then we still did it.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, we paid off the 4Runner. We could have just sold the 4Runner, but we paid the 4Runner off, and we paid for the bathroom remodel, which was $20,000 to put a freaking bathtub in. Like, I mean, yeah, they redid the whole thing, but really, we only needed a bathtub. And of course, we were not humble enough to just use an infant bathtub or bathe our baby in the sink. We needed a whole entire $20,000 remodel.
Mm-hmm.
And then that extra $10,000, I think we took it out to pay off credit card debt, and that did not happen.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
This is making me angry, and I talk to my financial coaching clients all the time about like when you talk through this and you figure out like really where you're coming from, there's going to be guilt, there's going to be shame, there's going to be all these feelings, but like I'm like about on the verge of tears looking at these numbers because it makes me feel like, how the hell did we get that far? But then I look at us now and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so proud.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. It's really cool.
It's really cool.
Okay, so we had paid off the $50,000 4Runner, and we hit November and decided we're gonna like seriously start to budget. And that's when we got our first budgeting app. We were big Dave Ramsey listeners at the time.
Hardcore Dave Ramsey.
So we download and purchase the Every Dollar app.
Yep.
At $120 or whatever it is, and we start to budget and we get pretty serious.
Full force.
And so that same day, I think that we started to like really listen to his podcast. The first money thing we did was take out the contributions from my Roth and throw those on credit cards. That was $12,000 that we took care of in debt immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Then December 16th, which is 6 days after the birth of our daughter,
Mm-hmm.
I sell my RAV4 for $16,000. So we're now at $28,000 after the $50,000 4Runner
That was
payoff.
when the credit card debt was done.
Yep.
So in two big like things, the credit card debt was immediately wiped out. And I used to think that that was cheating. Like, what we did there was not fair. We didn't work hard to get debt free. But those were huge sacrifices.
Very.
Huge. And so those do count.
Yeah.
Not everyone's willing to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what we were willing to do. I'm not saying that everyone needs to go do these things. In fact, I would strongly recommend against ever cashing out your Roth IRA, but it's what we did.
Yeah.
And it got us going. And it got us going really, really, really fast.
Yeah. And if you look at, again, I sold my car 6 days after our first daughter was born.
Yeah.
We became a 1-car household with a newborn. Like, that was stressful. That was very stressful. And, yeah, I mean, that was just a lot.
And we were really fortunate to be in a situation where you had a paid off car because you paid for it in cash with the original $600.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big thing that we were able to do. And then that was December. Then the world shut down in 2020, so we didn't really do anything, but we saved a lot of money just not going out. Budgeted. We still threw a lot of money at our student loans. And then we started this freaking podcast last summer.
Yeah.
And you guys, I don't think you know how much you encouraged us to just keep going.
Yeah.
Like, we had motivation within ourselves, and we motivate each other, and we have our posters and all of that. But once we started this platform, I felt like we couldn't disappoint. Like, we had to keep going.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a bad bar that people set or anything like that. It was the coolest thing ever.
There's been a lot of people who have been super supportive, and I definitely have felt like, no, I'm going to continue this journey. Like, I really want to do this right, because it felt like there were a lot of people that were cheering for us.
Hardcore.
Right? And it reminds me of that, like, Tyra Banks, thing in America's Next Top Model, where she's like, we were all rooting for you. Right? Like, I'm like, I don't want to let people down. I don't want them to be like, we were rooting for you guys and you messed it up. Like, I wanted to keep going so that people were proud of us.
And I'm going to be completely transparent here, because it is what it is. Our family and friends didn't understand. They didn't understand what we were going through. So when we started this podcast, it was an outlet. And we found our people and the community that understood on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So that's why we've been so successful with this podcast and with paying off our debt and everything, because we have this huge team of people cheering us on so freaking loudly that I'm like, I cannot disappoint these people.
Yeah.
Or any little thing, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to share this. They're going to be so hyped.
Yeah.
So anyway, we decide all of a sudden, like, I don't even know how it happened. It was like really fast. We made a decision to sell my paid off 4Runner because, like we just said, we did a cash out refinance the year before and took $80,000 out of our house, and we were able to pay off the 4Runner. So we had a paid off car, and we decided to sell it.
At this point, we had been working with our financial coach, and we had talked to him about the idea, and he was like, you could get some good money for it. It's going to accelerate some student loan payoff. You can find another vehicle cheaper, and it really draws, and this is something I love that he said, it really draws a hard line in the sand of what you guys want to do and where you want to be with your money. And he was like, you make a choice like this, and it really speaks some volumes about where you're headed. And that was enough for me. Like, hearing that from Ryan was like, okay, cool, we're doing it.
And I've heard from several people that love us that were like, did your financial coach convince you to do this? No, like, he never told us to sell our car. He never told us to sell our house. He was there as a soundboard.
Yeah.
To talk through these things. In fact, both times they were my idea.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know where to go from there, but we had these ideas that I felt were really crazy, but we had this person there to support us, and I'm so, so thankful that we had that, because I honestly don't know if we would have made these big moves had we not been working with our financial coach.
And that's kind of the benefit of financial coaching. It really helps having somebody who's not in the trenches dealing with it every day, who can step back and be like, actually, I see some other options here. Or have you guys thought about this? Have you looked at it like this? What if we talk about it in this way? What if we frame it in a different light? Like that was really the benefit of Ryan for us was like these were ideas that we had and we didn't have anybody to talk to other than ourselves.
Yeah.
And so he was like, let's hear how it's going. What do you got? And we'd bring it up and he'd be like, okay, let's talk through this a little more. And it was really beneficial. It was great.
I just remember when we first started working with him, I was like, oh my God, I love what you're doing. I want to do this too. I want to be a financial coach. I'm going to sign up for the class right now. And I remember calling him and asking him a bunch of questions. And he was like, all right, like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I'm so impulsive with things. Like when I make my mind up, no one can change my mind. And he was able to ground me and say, just keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to do this right now. And I'm so thankful that I didn't go into financial coaching then.
Yeah.
I mean, I am the financial coach I am today because I waited.
Yeah.
And because we are now virtually debt free on the other side. But anywho, before we got virtually debt free, the big thing happened, which was to sell our house. And so yeah, we sold the car and then we sold the house, and that was two of the hardest things we've ever had to do.
Very hard.
And we're now on the other side. And how do you feel now being on the other side?
It feels really good. I mean, we sold our home and moved away from my family.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously now live closer to your mom. We're renting out her home. We went, back to being renters. And with the proceeds from the home sale, we were able to pay off student loans. Now we're waiting until the government decides what they want to do. But that was the end of our debt-free journey from 2019 to, May of 2021. We ended up paying off $221,000 worth of debt.
Well, technically
Yeah.
$132,000.
Okay,
and then
at that point, true.
Yeah, we have the $90,000 pending for student loans when they're ready to resume. And it's just crazy to me because I think obviously we've come so far. We've done all these things, and I do think we don't give ourselves enough credit sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we're living in it. We don't really see it. But then when I tell this whole story, I'm like, oh my God. There was something in us that couldn't be stopped.
Yeah. For me personally, like, I'm kind of, and I don't know if I've ever, like, said this or, like, addressed it, but, like, I'm kind of angry about some of it. Like, I'm angry that we got there. I'm angry that I don't want to say people doubted us, but like, it felt like we weren't like really being our feelings of like fear and worry weren't like always validated,
But why would people validate that when we made it seem like everything was okay? And we literally were trying so freaking hard to keep up with the Joneses and have everything nice
For sure.
that there was. And I mean, there's no other way. I was going through my closet today and I was getting so angry with how many clothes I have. And I know you would think this is kind of funny, but I mean, I have a huge bin. I posted it on Instagram and I'm like, why the hell do I have so many maternity clothes?
Yeah.
Yes, sure, I've been pregnant for the last like 2 years, and we started our debt-free journey when I was really pregnant. But I bought thousands of dollars of maternity clothes. I had 15 pairs of maternity pants and 10 pairs of maternity leggings. I don't even have 15 pairs of normal pants. But we were in this is before we got serious, We were in this mindset of like, well, we've got the money, it's going to be okay. Or you can just charge it to a credit card, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just go drop $700 at motherhood on maternity clothes. It's okay. That's fine. You deserve it. And then I'm looking back and I'm like, I would never do that today because of how far we've come. I mean, it gave me some serious anxiety going through the closet. And yeah, it made me angry. And I can't believe it got that bad. But no one told us that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in society has debt. It was normal to go buy a $50,000 car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was what attracted us so much to Dave Ramsey's approach, was the way that he was like, yeah, this is normal. Do you want to be normal? Do you want to just be drowning in debt like everyone else?
Mm-hmm.
No, we didn't. And so that hard approach was really what drew us in. Now,
Yeah.
he's not a nice person and we don't follow him anymore, but we can't tell our story and not credit that part of the journey.
Yeah. You know, talking about all of your pants and stuff too, like if you ever need me to sell them, like I'm really good on Facebook Marketplace
I know
now.
you're really good at Facebook Marketplace.
That was one of my favorite things getting out of debt was like finding other things in the house that I could sell.
Yeah, you were good at that. You sold everything.
Yeah. Shout out my brother for letting me sell our original podcast mics that he gave us for free. That's great.
That's too funny. But you see all these people online that are like, oh, they paid off $60,000 in 2 months or something ridiculous. We were teachers making not very good money, just decent, whatever, average Joe money. But we paid off $132,000 in 2 years.
That's so dope.
That gets done by doing things like what we did.
Yeah.
Now, just because you have $132,000 worth of debt doesn't mean you need to do it in 2 years. You can do it in 5 years, and it's just as worthy of being celebrated. But that's why we did it in 2 years. We literally liquidated all of our assets. And that's what worked for us. One of the biggest things that we've shifted in mindset is accepting the fact that there's no one-size-fits-all journey for anyone.
Yeah.
And we did it really unconventionally, but it worked for us in our situation.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of sacrifice.
It feels so good to be on the other side of it, though.
It feels so good to be on the other side. And last night when we went to dinner, we were talking about not being glued into like our professions. We're finally in a place where we have like true financial freedom.
Yeah.
Where we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
We're not tied to a profession. We're not tied to anything. And that is my definition of financial freedom.
Yeah.
Being able to make choices and literally do whatever we want. And I believe firmly you can have whatever you want in life. Maybe just not all at the same time. You know, you have to do certain things to get there. But now we're there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so freeing. Yeah. I remember feeling so weighed down, but I don't feel that anymore.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's
huge
not.
Relief.
It's not like the financial independence idea where we're not gonna work for the rest of our lives.
Right.
Like we still need to work to pay our bills and stuff, but some people stay in jobs because it maybe takes care of health benefits and is the best pay they can get. Like versus us, if we don't want to be teachers anymore, we can go wait tables, and that would cover our monthly budget because we're good at budgeting. We could go and get a job working in a standard big box warehouse, and that's going to cover our budget because we're good at budgeting. And that's the freedom that budgeting and tracking our expenses gives us. And that's been the biggest takeaway for me is like we can enjoy everything we want. I have enough in my world that I'm so happy, and my budget is as lean as it's ever been, but it feels so good.
Yeah, we're really doing a really good job, and I'm so proud of us.
It rocks.
Thanks for doing this with me. We've had some crazy ideas along the way, but I couldn't have done this with anyone else. Obviously, I couldn't have spent $600,000 with anyone.
You're the only person I want to spend $600,000 with, honey.
If we got that money today, we'd be millionaires. If we knew what we knew now, back in 2016, we would be multimillionaires today.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be fun. I would say it'd be fun to do it all over again, but maybe not.
But I do have to say, I don't regret. There are certain things I wouldn't do again, but there's nothing where like, oh my God, I regret that so much because that was part of our journey.
Yep.
And most important thing about life is that you learn from the things that you do, and boy, have we learned.
Yeah.
Won't be doing some of those things again.
I'm really glad we did this episode. I wanted to touch back on our story. I wanted to have our new listeners and your new clients who want to check out, our background and where we're coming from. I wanted to give them a really clean, snapshot of like, hey, we were able to do this, making some hard choices, and maybe people's journeys and stories look different than ours. But, we want to be able to walk alongside people as they're trying to get out of debt or trying to provide for their family or whatever their situation may be.
Yeah. just like all of the people who've cheered us on, we are now there for you.
Yeah.
And I will cheer so freaking hard for you to be successful.
Yeah.
Because I want nothing more than to see more people achieve whatever their definition of financial freedom is. Because it was worth every single sacrifice.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for this episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we are so thankful to have had this conversation with you, and we're so grateful to be part of this community alongside you. Happy budgeting.
You've got this, Toasties.
Thanks for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend that you're comfortable having money talks with. And if you don't mind, we'd love if you could rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're in need of my support as a financial coach, message me on Instagram. I'd love to help in any way that I can. Until next time.